Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first DigiPride panel entitled Queer Voices in Games. We are joined by an amazing group of talented voice actors this evening for a fantastic chat. I say this evening, I'm obviously in the UK. It could be afternoon. If you're over in the US, that's your choice. As I mentioned, this is part of DigiPride. This is Gayming Magazine's 3-month-long Pride celebration. To find out everything about DigiPride, you can go to gaymingmag.com/DigiPride to go to our DigiPride hub. And you can't really see it, but I know what you're thinking. What a fabulous t-shirt. Oh, get out of the way. Yes, we have Pride merch, DigiPride merch. If you head over to, I can throw it into the chat, I think, because I can't remember the address because it's brand new. Bear with me. #merch. There you go. It's now in the chat. So it's merch.streamelements.com/gamingnmag. Go and buy some merch. Go and have a fantastic time. But that's about it. So we're going to have a panel. It's going to last about 45 minutes. We might do some questions along the way. So if you've got any questions, do drop them into the comments. And we will have a look at them at the end. Or if there's something exciting as it goes along that I just think is pertinent, we'll talk about it. It's a very relaxed panel. But enough of my gabbing. I'd like to introduce you to much more talented people than I. Let me just spin the screen round. Look at that for excitement. Welcome, everyone. This is already amazing, and I'm beyond excited to actually have all of you lovely people on the screen in front of me. Let's go down the line. And if you can introduce yourselves and tell us what you're sort of best known for, obviously in the voice acting world and otherwise, and also if you could share perhaps like your pathway into video game voice acting, because I know that we've got quite a lot of different people here from different backgrounds. So, Tommie, let's kick off with you.
Hey guys, it's Tommie Earl Jenkins here. I'm probably best known for playing the role of Die Hardman in Kojima's Death Stranding, which was an amazing experience. Also, on the flip side of that, to the other extent, I was playing Ubercorn in the children's TV show Go Jetters, which I enjoy thoroughly. As far as getting into the voice industry, I think I just kind of slipped into it. I mean, as an actor, which I've been doing since I was 14, it's sort of in theater, but I just happened to audition for a voice job once, and that sort of slowly turned into auditioning for more, getting those jobs, and then taking a path that led to doing a lot of that. So I enjoy it, but I kind of do it alongside as on screen and off screen. So it's been a really cool journey that I'm still enjoying.
Wonderful. Valerie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Lohman, and usually people know me as either Edith Finch in What Remains of Edith Finch, Jess Blaskowitz in Bethesda's Wolfenstein Youngblood, where I get to be a badass for once in my life, or if you're an anime fan, last year I was the very cute but very evil Rachel in Tower of God, which was a blast, my first villain role. As for getting into it, like Tommie, I also started in theater and on camera. That was my whole life. And then around 2014, I started doing small anime dubs and a lot of live action dubbing for like internal use. And out of the blue, I booked Edith Finch, and it ended up being the biggest fluke or luck of my life. And that has kind of let me pursue games full time, which has just been a thrill. So that's me.
Wonderful. Sarah?
Hello, I'm Sarah Elmaleh. What? I've been in games. Unlike everyone else on this panel, I think I sort of had an awakening. I'm going to combine this with the how I got in question. Early-ish on, I loved LucasArts adventure games when I was young, and I think around that time, and then playing BioWare RPGs as I got older, like I started to kind of conceptualize that this was someone's job and that it sounded really fun, and just having a personal connection to these characters and these performances and actors. But I trained in theater, and then I moved up that way. In college, I also just started doing radio dramas, which was my first kind of like, ooh, I get to voice things that I don't even look like. That's the funnest. So that sense of freedom was really exciting and intoxicating. So after school, I moved to New York. I was still kind of unsure. I was like dabbling in different categories. I had an on-camera commercial rep, and I was doing theater and things. And I just kind of everything about the way that auditioning for voiceover and, you know, as a a discipline, and then also games in particular spoke to me more and more. And so I started focusing on that. So it's been my focus for quite a long time now, I suppose. I mean, long time in terms of my life proportion, 10 plus years. But yeah, you may have know me from Gone Home and other indies that I was doing out of my home studio in New York before I moved to Los Angeles, which is where I am now. I'm also the female freelancer in Anthem. I'm Lizzie Carmine in Gears 5. I was a pilot voice in Squadrons. I've been in I've been additional voices in a number of really fun, exciting games from this last year. And then, yeah, I've also transitioned into labor and community advocacy, whether it's working with the union, the Actors Union on the low budget contract for indie games, or just kind of strengthening developer relations, or helping JP Karliak with QueerVox, which is a queer community of voice actors. It's kind of a support group and workshop and resources and things like that. And I've also started consulting and directing. So I voice direct now games, which is also super fun. And that's been more and more of my time. And that's me.
Wonderful. August.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm August Black. I am a new voice actor in the community, best known for Tell Me Why. I play Tyler Ronan, who is one of the first transgender protagonists in a AAA game. And so that was really cool to be able to be a part of something like that. And getting into that was interesting. On the other side, on like the on-camera side, here I am. My internet keeps cutting out.
You're there. Keep going.
So on the theatrical side, I'm only haven't done too much there, but in both, I actually got both roles through Instagram. It was kind of an interesting phenomenon. I was reached out to on Instagram, and then from there on, I auditioned and.
Oh, cliffhanger.
We love the voiceover community.
Oh, you're back.
He's back.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We got as far as Instagram, and then there was a massive cliffhanger, and yeah.
I think I heard you love the voiceover community, though.
That's
I do.
amazing.
I love the
Yeah.
voiceover. I'm gonna try to go to a different room and see if it's better. I'm so
Getting
sorry.
a tour
guys.
of your house now.
Exactly.
We get to get a whole tour.
This is now interactive. The search for good internet. It's a game.
Search
We're
for
gonna start-
good internet.
We'll give it a bit, then we'll start going up and down Sarah's bookshelf.
Yeah.
And there's the Shakespeare.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you guys get to hear my dog.
We've now got a dog on the stream. It's fantastic. I'm enjoying this already. This is amazing. Cool. Instagram, and that was a really weird experience. Do you want to go again from Instagram? Sorry. Oh, and you love the voice community, of course. So we could stop there.
Yeah, so I got both roles from Instagram, and they reached out to me from there and went through the audition process. But like the Tell Me Why experience really like opened my eyes to how beautiful and kind and fun the voiceover world is. And so I can't wait to, I've been auditioning and I love the whole process. So I'm excited to continue diving into that.
Awesome. Ciarán.
Hi, I'm Ciarán Strange. I am a voice actor, musician, author. I try to do creative things. I like it. It's fun. If you know me, you probably know me from Borderlands 3. I was Lorelei. I've been in various Funimation simuldubs. I was in Astra Lost in Space, Mars Red, Infinite Dendrogram, Eternal Illusion. I've done a whole bunch of stuff over there. It's really fun. Warlords of Zigdrifer. Also I've gotten to do some really fun indie games, including Monster Camp, which was fantastic. And also Flow Weaver, which is a VR game, which I love VR games. They're a lot of fun. How did I get into voice acting? I fell into it is normally what I say. I never really intended to end up here. I've always wanted to act. I did a lot of like extra work when I was living in Vancouver, Canada, just hanging out on set with people trying to talk up what various credits they had. It drove me mental. I hated it. And then I did a lot of music at conventions, and that was kind of my jam. I performed music. I wrote my own music. And that was kind of how I met people from the voice acting community, just through being in the green room, drinking, hanging out, doing whatever. And I didn't know who anyone was because I watched some anime and played some games, but I wasn't like hardcore into the community. So I didn't like know anyone. So I kind of met a lot of people that way. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold. And then I was pulled to audition for Lorelei, and it was a hell of a lot of pressure, but I really enjoyed doing it. And that was how I discovered, like, holy shit, I actually really like doing this. And now I've discovered I love to do it. And so I just want to do it more and more.
Amazing. What a fantastic group of people. I'd like to kick off, obviously, talking about kind of like the technical side of it. So for people that maybe don't quite understand, obviously, that the video games, TV, film, as actors, what is so unique about voice acting in video games?
What is it?
Open question. Anyone can jump in.
In terms of what did you say? What's so unique about it?
Just what's so unique about voice acting in video games versus perhaps voice acting either anime or even just acting in TV or film?
It's interesting. I think that for me personally, I always find that a big difference between doing voiceover, whether that's mocap and just being in the studio and doing voiceover versus TV and film, because I feel like you somehow have to work a little harder doing voiceover and mocap, because you don't have the things around you that you would normally have on set. Certainly with motion capture and things like that, you kind of have to use your imagination in a way and dig up all those acting skills that you learned about to really put yourself in those surroundings and situations. You know, if you're out in a snowstorm, you don't have a set that's built around you to create the visual. So you literally have to dig deep enough to find those emotions and all of that sort of stuff to create that feeling within you that will translate, and I think having the cameras and things like that so close, they really do capture all that emotion through your eyes, through your flaring nostrils and, tears through your eyes. All of that stuff is so important that sometimes you aren't able to get quite like that on film sometimes. And I just find it is challenging, but as the actor, I feel it makes you dig a little deeper than you normally would.
Mocap's also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was about to say, August, you were saying something at the start there as well.
I was I think it's really cool from my experience, just like how you're creating a character someone else gets to be, which is not something that you see on TV and in movies. It's like you actually get to play this character and live as them in that world and in that experience. And I thought that was like one of the coolest parts of the after effect. Of like, once the game was done and I was done recording, you actually experienced it in a completely different way than you would in in film.
That's really interesting. Valerie, sorry, you.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just going to say that mocap is especially lovely because it feels like the best of all three worlds. It feels like the best of VO, best of on camera, and best of theater, because it's like, obviously there's a lot of vanity involved with being on camera on set. Everyone's touching up your makeup, making sure you look a certain way, and being on a mocap set is like, not only are you getting to play with actors in a studio, it's like being at theater camp and you're in these ugly black suits, just like feeling like a complete weirdo having fun. And I love all forms of acting, but mocap has a very special place in my heart because of that. It feels like being a little kid, just having a blast.
We'll come back to mocap in just a second, but Ciarán, actually, you obviously do a lot of voice work in anime, as you just said. What the difference do you find specifically between anime voiceovering and video game voiceovers?
Well, playing off of, before I go to that, playing off what Tommie said, like I haven't done a lot of mocap, but even just in the booth, you have to do so much visualization. Like, my booth is like blankets on walls and then like foam, but you have to, if you're in a snowstorm, you have to imagine those flakes coming down. You have to like let your body shake. There's a lot of, imagination that goes on. Like if I'm yelling in a big room, I have to kind of like expand those walls around me. The difference between video games and TV is that when I do TV, I'm dubbing flaps. So I don't have much freedom. You can't really sigh and take breaths when you want to. You're so beholden to the way the character's moving their mouth and the script that's in front of you. I've been super lucky with games like Borderlands, even with Flow Weaver to some extent. We were allowed to really play with the script and massage it, and we had a writer kind of in the room with us. So I had way more fun. Like I could play with the words more. I could kind of say it more like it meant to me, whereas doing anime, you're so beholden to what everyone else has. So definitely more creative freedom, whereas with the anime, it's more the fun of trying to get a good performance out of what you've been given. So that's probably, I love them both, but different, very different beasts.
And Sarah, how about for you? What do you find unique?
I took things from something everyone said, so I'm going to try and tie them all up. Let's see if I can remember them all. One is definitely seconding the fact that you need the fullest, most ready at hand imagination of anything that I've encountered for games. And then also combined with a lack of inhibitions. I think you have to be extremely comfortable looking very silly and throwing everything at the wall immediately and then changing it immediately and sort of having no friction in yourself between the impulse that you have and the idea that you are sparked by whatever they suggest to you, because you're kind of blind. You're just completely relying on what they describe to you, your director, and that it's your director is your flashlight. So full imagination and no embarrassment. I also love, I might just make a distinction between performance capture and motion capture, because I think folks are describing the capture of their audio and their face, or maybe their face and their physicality at the same time. Pure mocap might be stunts and just without getting the voice and stuff. But it's so much fun. And I'm actually curious to hear more from the folks who have done a lot more on camera. I did background once on the pilot for Boardwalk Empire, and I was like, I've worked on a Scorsese set. I'm done. I'm not doing any more background ever again. This was great. Thank you. Bye. But I was struck by the rhythm of it. It was really a challenge. With voiceover, there's a completely different rhythm where you're in a booth. It's on you to deliver and to perform straight through. There's no waiting for setups, no changing lights, no nothing. So on the on-camera set I was like, oh, I can see that this is a challenge of sustaining, being ready and managing your energy appropriately, given that you're going to work for 2 seconds and then wait for a bit. Whereas voiceover, it's you have to have stamina to last the whole way through. And I think performance capture has a bit of that, where you're there's some technicians and some technical aspects, but you're more or less acting the whole day with your people. So that's what strikes me, is just how you manage your energy is different across these different disciplines.
In Vancouver, we would say extra work is a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
On-screen work, hurry up and wait.
Yeah. Hurry up and wait. And that's a very different vibe, where you're all right, I'm going to hold this, cultivate this. I'm having a feeling. Oh, I'm going to let it go because we have 20 minutes. No, I have to get it ready now. That's very different.
There's still lighting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So different. Voiceover, it's next, good. Yeah. Another one, please. Thank you. So you have to stay keyed up and ready to go. It's a different kind of athleticism, I think. Yeah. I find game voiceover really athletic.
Yeah.
Just
I couldn't believe how tired I was afterwards.
Yeah. It's just getting the script. We don't have the luxury that TV and film actors have in terms of getting your scripts well in advance to, map out your character's arc and figure out where this is coming from. Do the background check on the story and the other artists that are involved. Some days you show up in the studio, or in these days in your home studio, you get the script that comes through on the day of your session, and you have 10 pages to get through, and you're seeing the script sometimes for the first time. If you're lucky, you'll get it the night before to have a skim.
I'll add, in anime, sometimes you don't even know which character you're playing. You get told you've been booked for a show and you have no idea whether you've got to be a big growly monster or you've got to really work your up. So I just have to work everything, and you don't see the script the day of. You get it in the session. So you have to be so good at your improv and being able to take a line the first time you see it and be like, these are the bits I need to emphasize. Holy crap, let's go. But games, sometimes, like you said, if you're lucky, you get it the night before. Sometimes you're like, okay, I get to look at it at least for a second.
Sure. Maybe. And you give them 3 passes of a line, and hopefully those 3 passes are so different that one of them will work when they go to choose. So you do have that. Just giving those variations will help. But the thing is, you just never know what's going to be chosen, so you never really have a through line, and you just hope that everything that you do, which, we're all experienced enough to kind of know and have done it enough to kind of go, I'll give 3 varying passes, and one of those is bound to be what will work for that. And the same with everything that falls in after that. So, but we have to work a little harder.
It's also kind of a fun surprise. Go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that if you say to most other actors that your cold read will be the final product, they would be like, "What?
Yeah.
Why?" But that is the strange special skill that we flex all the time. That's just what we do. But
and it's
Valerie,
also because it's not thought about. You haven't broken it down. You haven't dug too deep into it. You've gone instinctually with what's on the page, and 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the right choice as an instinctive actor. And we've learned to trust that.
Right.
That spontaneity is really always so fun to work with. I think that's like such an important thing for. I'm sure all of you working in this have improv experience to some degree, because it really is like that. You're rolling with the punches. Remember for Tower of God, I didn't know my character was the villain until I was doing the scene where she kills someone.
Oh wow!
Like, so I'm sure we've all like stuff like that. Like it's in the booth. You're getting these surprises, these gifts as you go. It's incredible. You'd never have that on a film set.
Yeah.
I think one of the things
feel like it's a playful opportunity, then you're in the right spot. And if you feel like you can't handle that level of lack of prep, then maybe you'll be comfortable in a different
field of acting.
I think one of the things I'm most fascinated about, and I think it's probably the biggest difference, is what we were talking about obviously before we went live, which is the efforts, the extra bits that games have their characters do, which is the sound like you're climbing, sound like you're grunting, sound
How
like
many ways can you
jumping.
jump?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there has to be some fun stories in there somewhere of things you had to do in your times of.
Borderlands was great. Oh, sorry, Jordan.
No, I was gonna say, what's the most whimsical or complicated effort you've had to do?
Borderlands was great because they have different elemental guns for Borderlands 3 and the Borderlands. Let's all answer the phone. Let's all answer the phone with Sarah. Oh,
it's all doorbell, so I don't. Please continue.
Quick, it might be your agent.
We're in a panel.
I'm booked.
So yeah, with Borderlands, we have all the elemental guns. So I'm sitting there, and Joel McDonald was a fantastic director. He knew I was green. He knew I was nervous, and he would kind of do like sort of examples of what he kind of wanted from me before he just threw me in cold feet. But it was like, okay, now act like you're on fire. And I was like, okay, cool. So you kind of think, okay, what's on fire sound like? Cool. And then they're like, okay, cool. Now act like you've been splashed with acid. And you kind of go, what's the difference between acid and being on fire? And you have to kind of pull like it from a different place. And that's where the imagination comes in, right? You have to like imagine your skin burning. I love efforts, but I've been told that's because I'm new. But I like to think I'm going to be one of those people who's like, I love battle grids. I want to jump 16 times.
I always love efforts. I think, efforts are the thing about efforts is just the tension between that potential risk of damage to your voice and so like they're always fun, but there is always like I love doing them, but I'm always I'm paying hyper attention to where my voice is at, learning telltale signs of when it's whatever, learning to advocate for myself with a director in terms of like how we pace and structure the session. So because if you like the job, you want to do it a long time. And it's up to you to advocate for protecting your instrument so you can do it for a long time. So
and to add,
you were at the back of your brain.
You were saying before about improv, but it's also like you've got to know your body's limits, right? Like you can improv, but if you're going to pull a scream out of someone, you got to know that you can, not lose your voice and die choking in the corner.
Yeah.
And that's why I emphasize athleticism, and because it really is conditioning your body and keeping it warm and strong and flexible. And I mean, it's warming up. It's all of that other stuff. It's getting enough sleep. I find really with efforts,
hydrating.
Right. All of these things contribute to whether you can do this job safely, because it's like stunt work. It's like vocal stunt work.
And not even, I mean, especially like efforts are such a full body experience. It's warming up, not up those vocal cords. It's the stretching, the jumping jacks, anything, because it takes all of you to produce those.
I've pulled these muscles so many times.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. Learning to compress a scream was my whole world changed. Learning to compress vocal sounds that give you the sound that you need, but doesn't necessarily have to be how we would do it in real life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We have a lot to be thankful for with the mics, the type of mics that they use, and how much work you really need to put in and how much work you don't have to put in to save yourself.
Totally. That's such an interesting. I have not figured out that technique yet. That's a really, really cool, impressive thing
Same.
to do. I tend to go literal, but I notice to me it's like tension. It's just removing tension. It's the same thing as your creative, right? So like, because places that you hold tension will create strain.
Yeah.
So like for me, like efforts feel the best. Like if the effort flow state is energy coming through the ground up my butt and out my head. If there's like if something is holding. Somewhere, then I'm gonna hurt it. So like that's the feeling I'm looking for. But that's impressive. I know a couple other voice actors who are able to create the resonance that they need without the
that's epic.
projection. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be taking notes.
I know,
I'm
right? You spit
VO
roasted
101.
by energy.
Straw
August.
phonation. Straw phonation.
Yes.
There you go.
And what's annoying is I haven't discovered how to link the parts of my voice that I use for singing, being a live singer. Like, because I can do some really impressive stuff with higher, like screaming, yelling, but I haven't quite figured out how to link that to my acting voice yet. And I know it's inhibition. So that's how you're talking about, Sarah, letting go of your inhibitions, like so that you can use your body to its fullest extent. So and everything doesn't clamp up.
Yeah. I think that the trick to something like that as a singer myself is to not separate the voices.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of where your register can take you in your vocal ability to sing is this very same place you can go to as a VO artist.
Okay.
And just trust that is the same. Rather than extending and holding the note out, you're only speaking it. But you find that same register in the place where you place it could be very beneficial. Just don't think about separating them. Yeah.
My warm-ups are the same as they would be for a singing warm-up.
Same.
You know, so whatever that works.
Awesome. Thanks,
works
Tom.
for you.
We're all learning something.
Look at us.
I'm taking notes too.
This is literally a masterclass. Let's move on a little bit now to sort of like let's get away from the technical stuff and get into the side of the fabulously queer stuff, as that's what we're all here for. August, I want to come to you because obviously, as far as I'm aware, I don't want to insult everyone else on the panel, but you probably are the person who's most recently voiced a fabulously queer character in the shape of the wonderful Tyler from Tell Me Why.
I screamed when I saw that. As a trans man, I screamed. Thank you. I love you.
I should also say award-winning because the Gayming Awards.
I did.
Best LGBTQ character and gave a fantastic acceptance speech. Anyway,
thank you.
To you, there's obviously been a notable increase in LGBTQ characters in games of late, with yourself playing one. How important do you think this is for the LGBTQ plus community?
You know, I think it's important for like two different reasons. You know, of course, our LGBTQ youth need that outlet and that place to feel, you know, connected. And gaming is such a big world that I didn't really know much about beforehand. But on the other side, I've gotten messages from people who didn't know anything about queer characters, didn't know anything about trans men, and it opened their eyes to that kind of person, and like it's that kind of experience and how to handle it in like the right way, you know. And I think that when we have these queer characters coming in more volume, people are learning faster and learning the right and the wrong ways, and like how, because you feel with video games, you know, you feel, and that's the beautiful thing that we create as voice actors, is those feelings for people to connect with. And if you're like, oh, that made him feel bad, maybe you won't do it next time, you know, like, you know, we're teaching people. I think that's, for me, I think like that's the coolest thing, is like, as we move forward, you know, people just keep learning.
You're absolutely right. There are some beautiful moments in Tell Me Why, particularly obviously with Tyler returning into his old hometown and dealing with that sort of people reconnecting with him in a way that has obviously changed since the last time that he was there. And I think those learning moments, I think they are learning moments of encountering people on the ferry or around the town or whatever, just those, the reactions that you get given as a player suddenly trigger something in your head. It's like, oh, I didn't like that feeling. And I think we learn, if people can learn from that.
That empathy piece is so special. I think that, because it's one thing to like look up the right way to do things, and it's another to say, oh, I felt that because I've now identified with this person that I'm playing alongside or as. And so learning through empathy is just a whole different level of changing paradigms.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously now sort of throw that open to anybody else that sort of wants to chime in with the importance of why having more LGBTQ characters in games is a good thing.
I mean, my first same-sex like concept of a relationship is, I don't know if this is sad or amazing, was through a game. Like, I mean, I played BioWare games and like sort of, like the whole proposal being, you can date kind of who you're interested in. And like, I still remember, I was like, what if I flirt this chick? And then she like flirts back and I'm like, what is happening to me? And I didn't having, and it was just such an interesting design mandate, which was just choice. It was like, we're going to make this world and you get to have your choice within it. And I was like, oh, okay. Let me try this out. So like mentally rehearsing or mentally or emotionally exploring these things as I was growing up, I just think it's, I don't know, it stayed with me forever. And to be then to work with BioWare, I didn't get to do any romances. I'm the only BioWare protagonist who didn't get to flirt with anybody. I was robbed. But anyway, it meant to me, I mean, that's why it's important, because it was important to me as a person, I guess.
I like that. It was important because it was important to me. That's cool.
And it's true. I mean, I think that's incredible. I mean, that's a big thing, a very big thing. It's not just for other people, but a lot of things are important to the people that it matters to in that particular moment, at that particular moment in time, because of what they're going through or what story they're trying to tell or what they're trying to say. I think it's incredibly important that we, as we all are saying, is that representation matters. It is very important in this day and age for us to stand up and be counted and to be seen and to be heard in a way, in the stories in which we need to be able to tell them from our point of view, because we are the people who are living these journeys. We are walking these streets, and in order for you to know, you need to walk a mile in our shoes in order to know what it really feels like, what it entails. It's the same way with dealing with any minorities. We don't always know. We see a picture and we can only imagine what people go through. But until you really are in that position, then you will know how important it is to those people that these stories are told, and in the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to play off of that, like I just went back to my hometown for the first time in 5 years. And so it's like the first time through transition, the first time seeing my, oldest friend and experiencing those things. And it really was very tell me why. Like it was like it really hit right there where you're seeing people that know you as a human but don't know you as this version. And like, there's so much pressure and anxiety attached to that. And it's like seeing it in characters and seeing other characters deal with it in such a way, you're like, oh, I can do this too. Like I got this. Like this is we're all into this together at this point, because it's comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as a trans man, non-binary person, I feel like I look back in my life, even as young as as young as I remember, right? And there are so many times where I look back and I'm like, well, duh, of course I was a man. Like, of course I was a boy. Like, it makes so much sense. And I feel like growing up in England in the 90s, I'm 31 for a record. I always like to tell people because I'm very proud of that. And I made it. I feel like growing up in the 90s in England, there wasn't a lot of queer representation, especially transgender, and that which was typically trans women, and it was typically done in a way that was pretty distasteful or done for comedy. And so I feel like if I'd had the same level of content that we have today, where we have these transgender characters, we have characters that tell me why, if I'd been able to play that game as a kid, if I'd met Lorelei when I was a kid, if we'd had these anime shows and TV shows that explore this concept, I would have known. And sadly, that's the same reason that more conservative thinking people don't want us to have this inclusion, is because once you see it, you start to empathize. And it's, even if you're not that learning to empathize with it, you start to go, oh my gosh, I'm seeing myself in this so much, that you discover who you are. And I feel like the representation is so important so that people can learn, like, this thing I'm feeling is not just me being super effed up. This is, I'm actually trans, I'm actually non-binary, I'm actually asexual, I'm actually bisexual, like whatever it is. Like, I feel like the representation lends itself to teaching people about themselves. Yeah.
And not only that, but I think it's really important for the mental health aspect of coming out. Coming out is such a stressful personal experience. And for myself, I didn't come out till I was 19. So I've been out for 5 years now. And the amount of, if I had the amount of representation we have now, I would have been so excited to embrace that. It wouldn't have been as scary because I would have seen, I mean, I know it's not gaming, but for animation, like I'm a big fan of DreamWorks' She-Ra. If I had seen 2 queer princesses get together at the end and fall in love and save the world, I don't think I would have had nearly as much as of that emotional distress that it takes to come out and tell everyone in your life. And I'm really excited for everyone younger than us to have that. It's so exciting.
Ciarán was really positive for me now. I was like, yes. Everyone just like, there was such a beautiful, even though it was a bad guy, good guy, there was still like respect. I don't know. It was very crazy, but seeing all
it wasn't
those,
toxic.
It wasn't toxic, and it wasn't made a point, like having Bo have 2 dads, it like didn't mean anything other than like he had 2, parents that he was like kind of embarrassed about, and it was normal. And
no one makes
a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, for non-binary representation, Double Trouble's character was no weirdness, no discussion. It just immediately they them pronouns. It was beautifully handled.
It was, it really was beautifully handled.
Borderlands did the whole they did Hammerlock's wedding as a DLC, and not once during that press release did anyone use the words gay wedding. It was just wedding. And I was like, that is so cool. Like, this is the wedding, and the wedding just happens to be gay. Like, it was really cool.
You're going to set me off on one of my sort of massive Borderland geek outs, but what I absolutely adore about that game is about that DLC is it's flawed. As in the characters are flawed. They're not happy gays getting married. Obviously they're not happy. They're shooting everyone. But you early in the game, early in the DLC, you get split up, and I believe one of the characters, Jacobs, you're walking around with, is like he's having that self-doubt. He's like, is that person good enough for me? Like he's getting that kind of like pre-wedding eve kind of nerves.
Very normal.
It's those extra kind of layers underneath it that really kind of it normalizes it.
I just want to add one thing that because I think a lot about the games industry as a community as well, and like what is its identity and what is it made up of, and what is it like as a place to exist. And like I feel strongly that this representation is about not denying a piece of itself. If we take it as a larger organism, like there have been queer people and minorities and women making incredible work going back, and that's a history that maybe we don't have access to or isn't discussed.
Like with devs.
But it's there. With devs, with people making these games and playing these games both through time. And so it's now just catching up to a community of passionate creators and audience that has existed here. So it's like to kind of not to explore that and express that is to kind of deny a piece of itself, to my mind. So just from that perspective alone, I'm like, we're all here. I was here playing. Now I'm Mickey. Like all the things, you know what I mean?
It's like the natural step forward. Like, it would be to deny its existence to not include it at this point. Yeah,
it would be doing self-harm to not include this. I think. Sorry.
I think, obviously, speaking from my point of view, is that being probably one of the older people on the panel at this moment, but it is being able to see the changes that have happened, and respond to these changes in a way that I kind of go, I never thought in my lifetime that what I am experiencing now would have ever happened. But we have made some incredible steps in leaps and bounds over the years. And we have to acknowledge that and accept that is a huge milestone for the LGBTQ community, where we are. There's a long road to still go, obviously. I'm not saying that it stops here, but to have lived my life up to this point and to been able to see this progression happen has been incredible. To see people talking about it, to get the conversations going right now, that is important, and that is everything right now, because people are talking, and starting even from this point moving forward, we have so much more to do, but we are definitely heading in the right direction. You said something, Tommie, actually that caught my ear a little while back, which is about telling our stories. Is it important then that LGBTQ characters are voiced by LGBTQ actors? So my thoughts on this is that I am all for, if a job is being presented, I think everyone is entitled to, try to get this job in terms of actors and artists and VO. I love the idea that LGBTQ artists are put in those roles, because somehow I feel like they come from a different place, that there's something that they can bring to it that other people cannot because of their experiences in life. It doesn't mean for me to say that I don't think other actors, straight actors cannot play those roles. But my thing is that put the right person in the role in a sense that if they have something to bring that someone else cannot, and they are worthy of it, and they have the gift and the talent to be able to tell this story in a way that someone else can't, then by all means, let's go down that road and put that person in it. I think we live in a world, and certainly in our industry, the entertainment, is that it's a world of make believe. Yes. We're all playing characters. We're playing people that have existed, real people. We're also playing people that are fictional, who are completely made up. So we live in this world where it's kind of like a free for all. But at the same time, if we're going to pay homage to a specific ethnicity or a culture or diversity, then in order to tell that story truthfully, why not, dig deep and find the person that can bring something, like I said, to that story that the other person can't? Because like I said before, until you walk in the shoes of someone, you can't really understand it. You can be a great actor, and believe me, we have seen some great actors play some great gay iconic roles who aren't necessarily gay, and they've been brilliant. They tell the story, they make you feel. But imagine what someone else might bring to that who is from that background. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who can bring something, it might be a way that they look in their eye, just simply because they're recalling something that they've experienced that this other person hasn't, and you could see it, and it would be an amazing thing to see, because two people could play the same role, and you could watch the person from that particular background and think, yeah, but there's something that they're telling me that I'm picking up on here that this person isn't.
There's like a coding almost, like that you're putting I don't like to use that word, but it's almost like you're able to send signals with your voice. That plays into the point I was going to make. You're sending signals with your voice or with your eyes or with your body that others are going to pick up on. So both with Lorelei and then with a character I played in an anime called Astra Lost in Space. It was actually my first anime, and the character's name was Luca. Spoiler alert. He's intersex, and it was handled so well. And I think it's called Kleinfelters. I looked it up. I did a whole bunch of research on intersexuality and how it feels to be intersex and to exist in that world. Because I'm not intersex, but I wanted to be able to act from that perspective. But the one thing about this character was he was developing breasts. And so he'd wear like a vest to cover them. And like he wouldn't go swimming when everyone else was going swimming in the beach episode. And like as a trans man, I could totally identify with that. Like there was when I was talking about having breasts, there was, re-listening, I've had people say like, yeah, there is something in your voice that I just identify with as a trans man. And I feel like both with Lorelei and with Luca, especially, seeing fans' reaction to seeing a queer person in that role, it's the one thing I see all the time is like, I feel seen. I feel really seen. And I feel like sometimes it's less about who can do the job better and more about when the person that the role is written for. And August, I don't know if you can speak to this after Tell Me Why, like speaking about trans men, like for me to see that there was a trans man I had never heard of before in this role, and they'd won an award, and like that to me was so powerful. It's like I felt seen, I felt accepted by the industry. It's less about the performance and more about the representation in some ways. Like, does that make sense? Like because of the fan reaction. So
I would love to jump off that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you jump off that. Go for it.
I would just say I really loved what you were saying. Speaking on that, I just have spent the last 16 months producing an audio drama, a musical theater queer rom-com podcast, and called called The Flame the Musical. We have a
Get the
listening
plug,
party
get the plug.
tonight. We have a listening party tonight for episode 2. But there was only 4 of us on the creative team. Who I'm figuring out, have been figuring out gender stuff, and the rest of the creative team are all lesbian identifying women. And for us, we really wanted to have a show that was reflective of the entire LGBTQ community. So because we still have a very limited perspective, it was so important for us to reach out to trans men, trans women, non-binary performers, because we didn't have that voice. We wrote in an asexual character, and
Wow.
it was very important for us. We had several sensitivity readers because we needed it. Even being a part of the queer community, our perspective is limited to our one experience. My coming out story is going to be different than anyone else's. So while I agree, I always want it to be the best performer for the role. I totally love what you touched on, Tommie. For me, just having come from the producer aspect, that's been incredibly important, is having everyone come forward with their authentic view and bring that to the character.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I just want to second that go ahead.
No, sorry. What I was going to say is that, it feels like a double-edged sword sometimes, because as a gay man who also has the ability to play for me, I feel I can play any role.
Yeah.
I might not be right for every role, but my intention is that I don't limit myself to playing just a gay role or playing a straight role. I want to be able to walk into a room and be seen for who I am, but I've spent a lot of my career having to, not admit to my sexuality on the basis that people would not hire me simply because of that, no matter how good I was, so the fight continues in both directions. You still fight to be seen, to be able to just play, a superhero. I would love to play a superhero or a villain of some kind that isn't necessarily gay. But if it happens to be gay, that's even better. But I don't want to be denied a job simply because I'm not, I'm not straight or vice versa. So I always try to look and from both sides of the coin and try to understand also from a producer's point of view, from a director's point of view, from a whole creative team. Like you said, I want the person to walk in and to be that role. If that role happens to be written for a transgender or a gay character, I want that person to come in and embody that role. If they happen to be gay or be transgender, I would want that. And if they are giving me exactly what I need, it's even a bonus to me that I am finding someone who is legitimately everything I am asking for, and I know I'm going to get everything that I want from this person. And so I think it feels really hard sometimes to sit as a someone who's gay in our industry to kind of go, do I think this person should play that role? Do I think that person should play it, whether they're gay or whether they're straight? It is hard, but I do think certain stories need to be told, and I think that certain stories you really do need to find the authenticity of a person or the character to play that, because those stories are very particular.
Yeah, it depends on the story a lot of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I totally agree, like the double-edged sword side. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think there's perhaps a perfect future world in which something sparks in you, even though it's not your life experience, and you are the right person for the role, and folks LGBTQ plus are playing straight and cis, and vice versa, and it's just a big beautiful mishmash where everyone has a genuinely equal opportunity to be considered or to resonate with something. But I think as a community and an economic justice concern, you're like that there are it is difficult for right now based on the interest, and it's changing, but the roles available to sustain a career and to work enough to stay in this mix, when you're not getting through the door, you're not getting seen in the room, that there's it's not equal yet. The opportunities aren't equal yet. And the consideration isn't equal yet. So someday
and when it is,
I'll just You know what I mean? But for now, there's like, I care very much that folks can be authentic themselves, can portray the roles that they can really speak to, and that they are able to sustain a career. And again, I think that's where you switch hats, because yes, from a producing perspective, you're like, I want who's ever best for the role. But as an actor, I'm thinking, I want people to be able to make a living as an actor, or we're going to lose them from the space.
And like if we're not casting trans people in cis roles, then we're not going to give one of those roles that is needed for a trans person away.
Well, that's the other thing.
But I think in theory,
I hope
lovely.
I'd hope to like soon play a cis role, and to be able to like bring the fact that one of the things that I say is like I transitioned to feel normal. Like I really did like transition to get to where I felt comfortable with myself, and like I can play a cowboy. I can do that. I can, and we can play around with it. And the double-edged sword side is like the opportunity. If you're not giving, gay and trans actors opportunities to play cis and straight roles, then why would you be giving cis and straight actors, like the vice versa? If we're gonna make it, let's make it a swinging door. It goes both ways.
Sure.
Especially if we are all swimming in centuries of being inundated with straight cis programming and like content and mindsets and perspectives.
Are always playing the trans
right, and then but the odds that they haven't had the same exposure.
No,
it's if anything, it should be leaning the other direction.
Exactly, it totally should be leaning the other direction, because that's where it is right now.
Right,
to a certain extent. I mean, in the history, obviously we're getting better now.
Right.
Yeah.
Still a way to go.
Still a way to go.
We have 5 minutes left, so if there are any questions for the panel, please do throw it in.
Oh wow!
This has absolutely flown by. So
time flies when you're having fun.
5 minutes.
Well, we solved society.
We were just getting started.
This is episode 1 of a 10-part.
That was the warm-up.
If someone was watching this and wanted to get into video game voice acting, then so obviously everyone's here sat. We've been through kind of like their ways in. What would be kind of like your top tips? What would be kind of like your here's how to get into voice acting, or here's how to develop your voice, or here's how to. We had some amazing ones earlier, by the way.
Focus on your endurance. Really focus on the health of your voice. Like I came into this via touring, and I did a lot of like pop punk rock music, and just like screaming on a stage night after night. I've built some calluses, but I'm also dealing with a lot of like, I've got a rasp to my voice that I now can't get rid of. So like really work on like your endurance, but work on doing it safely. And like theater, singing, live shows, live talking, so like comedy, whatever, anything like that where you're like building your strength and your stamina, like definitely work on that. Because games especially, like the amount of times I was told, perfect read, a little louder, just a bit more energy. And so it's very up all the time when you're doing video games, especially if it's action. So that endurance is going to really help you out long term.
Yeah, I would say, ask yourself, why is it that you want to do it? What is it about voice acting that's drawing you to it? Because it's more than just games. There's voice acting for commercials, voiceovers for documentaries, audiobooks. What is it that you want to do? What's drawing you to it? And then once you figure out what it is, or what sort of avenue you want to go down, even if it's all of them, then research what it entails to be a voice actor. Find out all you can. Be a sponge, absorb every bit of information that you can about it, what's required of you as the actor. Maybe take some beginning acting classes, learn about your voice, how your voice works, and
the
take
biology.
And take it one step at a time, and get to certain phases and be able and ask questions. You learn a lot by just asking questions, and then just take it in steps.
I think also sorry, Sarah. I think too, whilst you're working on the technicality, my biggest advice lately has been develop who you are as a person alongside it. Because there's so many people. I mean, I audition for teenage girl roles every darn day. I know I could name 200 people I know who can do a 14-year-old girl's voice. But the reason each person's going to be hired is because of the unique perspective you give. I'm not going to improv the same way as someone else. I'm not going to bring my specific thing to the table that someone else will. So work on what makes you special. And how you do that is having a point of view and having a life outside of this. So
you don't want to be that actor who's just an actor. No, it drives everyone nuts.
That is the one thing that I tell all my kids that I speak with, is that the one thing that you have in this entire world that no one has is the ability to be who you are, because that's the one thing that no one can ever take away from you. There's only one of you. And once you realize that, like, Valerie was saying, it's you. Once you discover who you are and accept who you are, the sky's the limit for you, because there's only one. And at some point, someone's going to want you.
To kind of play off that, I felt like that was kind of when I started, going into acting, was when I accepted who I was. I was like, oh, I could do this, because I'm not supposed to be some like sexy lady on screen. Like, I can be, a confident, handsome young lad on screen.
Yes, you can.
You can.
That's like when I that's when it opened up, and I put my authentic self out there, and then people were like, that's cool. All right, let's see what you can do. And practicing obviously is super important, especially from a new person.
Yeah.
I just want to add, as someone who's now doing more casting, or at least hearing more auditions, is that like you can hear when someone is guessing at what people want. So that question of like, as opposed to just being a person, what you want to hear from the casting is that, oh, that's the person talking to me. I believe that they have hopes and dreams and fears, and they will continue to be the same person even if they have different moods at times. Like the wholeness of a real person is what people are listening to. So if you spend your whole time guessing or externalizing, if it's something that you're trying to do is outside of you so that you can find it and give it to someone else, that's not a strong audition. That's not a strong performance. So it's really essential. The other thing I would add is that there's, as you do find out more information about voiceover, because there's a lot out there, and like Tommie was saying, there's a lot of different kinds you can do, and they're kind of different. So some might speak to you more than others. Is to vet your information. So like, listen to folks whose work you can vet, whose work that you admire, who seem to be working recently, because the industry has changed so much, even in the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, just lightning speed has changes. So find folks
classes with.
Yeah, who you're taking classes with, and who, I mean, even now people will ask me how to get in, and I'm like, well, my information is 10 years old and things are a little different. So I'm going to tell you what I know, but talk to your peers, because, maybe finding out, maybe strengthening your social media presence is more important than ever before. Maybe checking the right hashtags and inserting yourself in the right hashtags is more important than before. That's not something.
The social media aspect is weirdly important for like the theatrical side. I don't know how for voiceover, but like theatrically, I was like trying to find agents, and they're like, you don't have enough followers. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well,
what?
There's that, but also there's certainly that.
They're like, you need more.
They're looking for
marketing.
marketing.
This is ridiculous. They're looking for marketing. They're looking for like, people who can like, but I feel like, having fun and being confident with your choices is more important than having enough followers to get into the role.
Are you
when
a good
I say
actor?
social media, I mean more like is yourself and particularly your identity, if you are from a marginalized background, visible and accessible, because people are looking to cast authentically. And because there's you can't ask an agent can't ask you how you identify. There's legal limits to how much people can try and vet you. So if you put yourself out there on your social media and you happen to be out and you're comfortable doing that, then casting will be like, oh, thank God, we can, because we're trying to cast authentically. Thank
One
you.
of the games.
We got one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. I feel we got one. This is true. I'm giving it to you now. So things like that. I don't, I'm not a huge fan of like having to have 1 million followers in order to be considered for your instead of for your performance. But there's that. But at one website that you can trust is D. Bradley Baker's iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, full of amazing tips. Beginners, experts, everything. So good. Continues to add to it. And then just finding, again, if you're looking to find your peers, I mean, this is kind of a shameless plug, but like QueerVox is a place where people are sharing information.
It's a good reference for
I love
QueerVox.
QueerVox.
Yeah.
Yay!
Very good reference.
So those are some places to start maybe looking.
Awesome. Tommie, Valerie, Sarah, August, Ciarán, this has been an utter delight. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everyone for watching. This has been, again...
So cute.
I was wondering who had the kitty. Yes, so this has been part of DigiPride, Gayming Magazine's DigiPride 3-month-long season of fabulously queer things in games. Please go and check out the website gaymag.com/DigiPride. There's competitions, there's wonderful things you can enter, and amazing panels and other stuff coming up throughout the summer. But in the meantime, have a lovely day, have a great evening wherever you are. And again, once again, thank you to all 5 of you. This has been an absolute delight. And take care. See you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Laters.
Bye.
Ciao.